T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I want to trade him for another black friend. Because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode for TylerPreston20 Live. And of course, I had a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff to talk about for this episode. As a matter of fact, it's a lot of stuff on my list right now to show you guys. So without further hesitation, let's see the whole entire stuff that I gathered for you guys to react to and give my personal comments and reviews and whatnot. So let's switch the screens right here, and let's go to the other side right here. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, obviously, of course, is this whole entire article that's been done by The Atlantic. And this, of course, was done by, of course, this guy named Ibram X. Kendi, the guy for the anti-racist book. And so, without further hesitation, let's read it out loud. There is no debate over critical race theory. Pundits and politicians have created their own definition for the term and then set out about attacking it. You know, it's kind of funny, of course, that Kenny right here is basically saying that there is no debate about critical race theory just by the headline. But we know for a fact, of course, that people have been, of course, debating about critical race theory ever since, the death of George Floyd. It's unfortunate, of course, that there were a lot of back and forth. There's many debates going on public television about critical race theory. So let's look at the rest of the article, and of course, I'll give you guys my thoughts. The United States is not in the midst of a culture war over race and racism. The animating force of our current conflict is not our differencing values, beliefs, moral codes, or practices. The American people are not divided. The American people are being divided. It's so funny. He mentioned, of course, the American people are being divided. But this is the biggest self-own I could possibly think of, man. His whole entire book was a bestseller, right? And so he's saying that America people are being divided, but his book caused that whole entire division. Saying stupid stuff like, well, you see, you need to, justify past discrimination to justify future discrimination in his book. So, and that everybody who do not subscribe to anti-racism must be a humongous racist. So, it's kind of funny, real funny, that this guy right here is saying that American people are being divided while also dividing the people. But let's get on. The Republican operatives have burned the actual definition of critical race theory, a way of looking at the law we're performing and producing, even having racial inequality in our country. As the law professor Kimberly Crenshaw, who helped coin the term, recently defined it. Instead, the attacks on critical race theory are based on made-up definition of descriptors. Critical race theory says every white person is a racist. Senator Ted Cruz has said it basically teaches that certain children are inherently bad people because of their skin color, said the Alabama state legislator Chris Pringle. That's actually true, though. That's actually true because, like, the thing about, the whole idea of all white people being racist, there has been some sort of critical race theorists that have said that. And by the way, guys, I am not talking about, like, Kendi, but there were actually legit CRT scholars who generally believe that all white people are racist. Not only that, though, but there's like this whole entire subsection of, critical race theory that is called whiteness study, which pretty much, look at the whole entire United States and how apparently white supremacy is still prevailing to this very day. So let's continue on with the article. I think I just passed right here. Here it goes. There are differing points of views about race and racism, but we are seeing and hearing on like news shows and school district meetings and op-ed pages and legislative halls and in social media aren't multiple sides with differing points of views. The only one side in our so-called culture war right now. Republican officers who dismiss the explosion of critical race theorists and anti-racism in order to find critical race theory and anti-racism and tackle those definitions are effectively debating themselves. They have conjured an imaginative monster to scare the American people and project themselves as the nation defenders of that fictional monster. It's not necessarily fictional because we've seen, of course, like, the effects of critical race theory and of anti-racism. People have seen these Zoom calls that's been going across all the whole entire country. People are not, uninformed about critical race theory. As a matter of fact, when I read the book out loud for anti-racism and these other sort of books that's been talking about this subject, it seems as though, of course, I try to attack the ideology based upon the definition you guys give. And so it's not so much that the people do not know the whole entire definition of critical race theory, anti-racism. No, there are people who actually read the books and criticize the ideas based upon their merits. It's not because, Republicans too, because this whole entire issue is not necessarily about Democrats versus Republicans. This whole entire issue is pretty much a bipartisan issue. Get that? Bipartisan issue. So no, I don't buy for a fact that it's just only, Republicans that are actually going as a critical race theory. Let's see, the evangelist Pat Robertson recently called critical race theory a monstrous evil. And over the past year, that monstrous evil has supposedly been growing many legs. First, Republicans pointed to Black Lives Matter demonstrators. 3 days after George Floyd's murder last year, President Trump recast the largely peaceful demonstrators as violent and dishonorable thugs. By the end of July, Trump has framed them as anarchists who hate our country. The thing about it, though, like, they make this sort of argument that, like, 90% of the people who are, like, participating in those riots are peaceful. But, like, the remaining, 10% of the rioters actually cause, like, a lot of damage. Like, 10% is still, like, a large number of people that cause so much damage. So I don't understand why they say, well, you see, only 90% of people actually, are peaceful when those other 10 people, actually, destroy stuff. That's like me saying, well, you see, I'm actually, I'm going to go to some sort of airport, you see, and because airports are like 90% efficient, those 10% of people that die on airports don't really matter. That's the same sort of argumentation that I see from, like, this sort of argumentation. And also, you should not necessarily undermine, like, the damage that was done last year. Because, yes, the Black Lives Matter protesters and a lot of the anti-FOB protesters were really violent against those who were on the streets who were conducting their own business. And ironically, by, destroying those businesses, they create less jobs for Black people. So, it's just so weird. Let's see, I just skipped it right here. Let's see. Then cancel culture was targeted. At the Republican National Convention in August, Trump blasts cancel culture as seeking to coerce Americans into saying, you know to be false and scare what you're saying, what you know to be true. Next came the attacks on the 1619 projects in American history. Despite the virtues and accomplishments of these nations, many students are now taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that women and men who built it are not heroes but rather villains, said Trump executive order on November the 2nd, establishing the president, excuse me, I'm kind of using Spanish again, oh my god, President Advisory 1776 Commission. You know, the whole entire 1776 Commission stuff, I'm actually against that too. I'm against critical race theory being in schools. I'm against like this whole patriot education stuff to be in school. Of course, there was like, one guy named Charlie Kirk that actually argued that basically this whole entire thing for like, I think it was for Christianity to be back in school. I'm actually against that too. I'm pretty much against any type of ideology that actually, of course, goes after kids. Because I think schools should be a neutral ground. They should not have some sort of, certain type of ideologies in schools. Because to me, when I send people to, if I were to have some sort of kids in the future, I don't want to have them to be indoctrinated by their doctrine. But that's kind of strange. Now, as far as the 1619 projects, I heard there was like a lot of inaccuracies for that projects. And many people criticize it based upon those inaccuracies. Personally, I've not seen it myself, but maybe in the future I probably will see it. But I heard people criticize that project on those grounds alone. Now, I guess, prior to like, what we know today as modern day America, that, a lot of parts that were today America were actually part of Spain. Like, for example, Florida, I think it was like, probably founded during that time period, during like 1619 or whatever. And then, of course, like the rest of the southwest parts were part of Spain and then was part of Mexico before they was transferred to us. So I guess there might be some sort of grounds to argue about when the whole entire nation was actually founded. But like, I'm not sure if putting like inaccurate information to your project would actually, benefit anybody. But let's continue on with the whole entire article. Now, the Black Lives Matter demonstrators, cancel culture, the 1619 Project, American History, and anti-racist education are presented to the public as the many legs of this monstrous evil of critical race theory that purposely is coming to harm their white children. The language echoes the rhetoric used to demonize desegregation after the Brown versus Board education decision in 1954. In the 1950s and 60s, the conservatives of racism organized to keep black kids out of all white schools. Today, they're trying to get critical race theory out of American schools. Let's see, instead of helping young people discover that America is the greatest, most tolerant, most generous nation in history, critical race theory teaches that America is like systematically evil and that the hearts of our people are full of hate and malice, Trump wrote in an op-ed on June 18. It's so weird that they're actually, saying that this whole entire controversy is like, Board of Education, right? Brown versus Board of Education. But that's the thing, though. Like, the whole entire controversy, like you said in the article, was about segregation. But there are literal people based in social justice who actually are segregating people based entirely off of race. I'm not even joking either. People who are actually segregating people by race at the college campuses with these sort of minority facilities. And not just that, though, but also, like, there were signs sometimes, like, in various parts that I've seen so far in the news, where it says, like, people of color only and white only. So the people who are actually regressing in the past are the ones who actually fight for social justice, ironically. So, this is so weird. Let's see. After it was cited like 132 times on Fox News shows on 2020, critical race theory became a conservative obsession this year. It's mentioned on Fox News practically double month after month. It was referred to like 51 times in February, 139 times in March, 314 times in April, 589 times in May, and 737 times in the first 3 weeks of June. As of June 29th, 26 states have introduced legislation and other state actions to restrict teaching critical race theory or limits how teachers can discuss race and racism, according to Education Weeks. It's kind of weird, of course, it's so weird that the media has some sort of bias over this debate. Because if it was really neutral, they'd probably get two people on the opposite side debating about this. On one side, you have MSNBC, who is completely biased for critical race theory. And then, of course, Fox News, which is have its own bias for that too. It would be actually good for having two people on the opposite side actually, have some sort of discussion. Sometimes these discussions end up as shouting matches on these sort of public television stations. But at the same time, though, it's so weird that the media is not covering this in a neutral manner. But anyway, I've been called the father of critical race theory, although I was born in 1982 and critical race theory was born in 1981. Over the past few months, I have seldom stopped to answer the critiques of critical race theory or of my own work, because the more I studied these critiques, the more I concluded that these critics aren't arguing against me. They aren't arguing against anti-racist thinkers. They aren't arguing against critical race theorists. These critics are arguing against themselves. Nope. No. Not all people who criticize anti-racism are not arguing against a straw man. I read your book. I've seen the results of your book. And your whole entire idea to, create an anti-racist commission sounds scary to me. And the fact that you call anybody who don't call themselves anti-racist a racist is stupid. The whole entire idea of you saying that, of course, you need to be anti-capitalist to be anti-racist, that also is really stupid to me too. The whole entire idea that past discrimination justifies present discrimination is also stupid. I read your work. I know what your ideas are. So no, just because you don't like the critiques does not mean I do not understand your ideas. Let's see. What happens when a politician falsely proclaims what you think and then criticizes that proclamation? Is she really criticizing your ideas or her own? If a writer decides what both sides of an argument are starting, is he really engaging in an argument with another writer, or is he engaging with an argument with himself? Let's see. All right, this is all this sort of stuff that he's been writing so far. So I'm not gonna go any more further, but it's really stupid. Really, really, really stupid. Okay, first to say first, hey man, how you doing? Let's see, make a video about Scottish independence. I don't know much about UK politics, so I cannot necessarily comment about Scottish independence. What I can say, however, though, is apparently I heard that the Scots actually, voted to stay in the United Kingdom. And so that's the only thing I know about this whole entire complex issues about Scottish independence. But yeah, my knowledge of British politics is not that great. It's not that great in the slightest. So the next video we're going to see right here is a series of videos that's been done by a teacher. She filmed a lot of TikTok videos, but apparently, of course, she actually, got caught with those type of videos, and then it's been, been exposed, and she deleted her account. So let's see the videos, and I'm gonna give my comments.
Kind of a video diary for me, but if you're a white teacher who still hasn't talked about what happened at the Capitol, here's what I did, and it worked nicely. I just said the facts of what had happened because the kids were curious about it. The president of the United States called for people to walk down there, and they did, and they broke in, and police opened barriers for them to get in, took pictures. There was backup called after things got bad. People were eventually escorted out of the building and not arrested. The president did make a statement for them to leave and go home, but it was after everything had already kind of happened, or at least started. I showed them a picture of the police presence at the Black Lives Matter movement, and then I showed them a picture of the police presence at this before things got violent. I didn't show them violent pictures. And then I let them make the comparisons. They had questions, they were comparing. We brought it back to privilege and how white people were treated versus how black people were treated.
It is so weird first and foremost, that they would be so political to kids in the first place. Like, that's literal political indoctrination. And number two, if you were to compare like the arrest for like, what happened at the Capitol versus what happened with Antifa and Black Lives Matter, there was like practically almost no arrests for those kind of rioters during that whole entire thing in 2020. There were plenty of arrests that happened at the Capitol. So you can't necessarily say that the riots at the Capitol versus like what happened with Antifa and Black Lives Matter is proof of privilege, when Black Lives Matter and Antifa were the privileged ones because they did not get arrested at all. So what are you talking about? So let's continue with the video.
In similar situations. I showed them the book Sit In, where we talked about defensiveness in white people about race. Kind of a video.
Okay, there's like more videos down below, so I'm gonna share it with you guys.
Boost this post. People of color, I have a question. I'm making an equity unit, which I referenced in my last video, and I am getting to the last week where we're going to talk about how we can make change. What can we do to change the awful system that's in place that keeps, some people doing fine and some people not doing so fine. They're fourth graders, but I speak pretty candidly with them, and they're really good at talking about race at this point. And what I want to do is role play. I want to role play situations that happen on the playground, in their living room, whatever, where racism comes up, and I want to role play them being a disruptor in that moment as a fourth grader. Where I'm lacking my knowledge is racist moments that happen on the playground. My experience on
Racist moments that happen on the playground. Racist moments that happen in the playground. It's almost like, like these kids are not, born inherently to, hate people because they're different. Like, the only kind of people that, were kids that turn out to be racist, like, are ones that actually keep teaching them racist stuff. But like, kids themselves are not inherently racist. And so if a kid plays with another kid, I don't think for a single second that they'll be like racist against a black kid or a white kid or whatever. Like, no kid are like, inherently hateful. It's so weird.
On the playground is as a white person, and I've done some research and have ideas, but if you're interested in sharing, I would love to hear what happens on the playground as a POC so that I can help my white kids step in.
That is so fucking weird. Like, why would you think that white kids are like inherently racist on the playground? It's just so weird to see that. So weird.
Told my uncle I was going to make this comparison, and here goes. First, we're talking about how the Holocaust started and progressed, not where it ended with concentration camps. I don't think concentration camps and gas chambers would ever happen in America. However, both these men chose someone to blame for the current political and economic issue. Hitler tried to push out the Jews and even had detention centers to hold Jews while they were on their way out. Trump blames Mexicans, and there are also child detention centers. Next is national.
The first things first. Number one, there's like no concentration camps at all in the United States. Hitler's Germany, of course, like had concentration camp for the Jews, and he explicitly wrote like, Mein Kampf to exclusively demonize the Jews. But where's like the whole entire concentration camp stuff? And where exactly, of course, is this sort of Mein Kampf from Donald Trump? That's like stupid. Number two, when it comes down to, immigration, like, it's not just Mexicans that Donald Trump actually targeted. Like, he wanted limited immigration, not just from the southern border, but also like, from various Middle Eastern countries. He had like a travel ban for particular countries that, did not allow them to actually come to the United States within his own personal rights as president to do so. And so they include places like, of course, North Korea and some other Middle Eastern countries. And so it's so weird that you're saying he's only blocking Mexicans when pretty much he, blocked anybody, no matter who they were. So it's just like a weird kind of, revisionist kind of history here.
And dehumanizing language. Blood and soil was used by Hitler to show that people who were born in the country and of blood to the country were the purest. Blood and soil was chanted at the Charlottesville attack, where Trump backed up the people on both sides.
No, that is like a complete lie. That's like a complete absolute lie about the both side comments. Because like the both side comments, what happened was that he said that they were like, good people on both sides and there were extreme people on both sides. For example, he mentioned, of course, that the people who are upset about, the statues, that the ones who did not cause any kind of chaos, they're the ones who were like the good people, and that the people on the other side has some good people too. He did not say that white supremacists was actually good. That's a lie. That's a complete lie.
Propaganda was also a huge part for both these men. They spew anti-media and anti-anybody who's against them, any candidate against them. Trump calls Joe Biden Sleepy Joe and retweets people calling Hillary a skank and the governor of Georgia fat. They're both reluctant to give away too much power. Trump even makes decisions without talking to everyone in his executive office. Hitler and
No. Dude, Trump is not like Hitler. He was not like Hitler. Let's see, bro. Hitler's grandma got impregnated by like Rothschilds when she was like his maid. He was like his Rothschild. Yeah, that's so weird. Like, is there any more? Oh, there's more of this. Oh God, there's more videos from this woman.
all the time. I'm a fourth grade teacher, and I do a lot of work with social justice and equity in my classroom. We have racialized conversations all the time, and my kids have gotten very good at this type of discussion. But there's one thing that keeps coming up that I'm not quite sure how to tackle. It's the slang, with cultural appropriation of slang terms, like sheesh, they're doing that a lot, or like, oh, that's fire. And I think this one I'm having trouble knowing how to start the conversation because I don't know what my goal is in the end. And this is where I would like a little feedback from anyone who's willing to give it on TikTok. Am I asking kids not to use the slang that comes up because it's probably culturally appropriated from POC? Or am I asking kids to do the research to find out where things come from and respect those cultures like we have been doing anyways? But I don't know. I just don't know how to start the conversation because I don't know how to end it.
This is so stupid, this whole entire idea of cultural appropriation, because it's basically like a form of separatism. That's what it is. This whole entire idea that you cannot borrow from culture, whether it's like the food or the language or whatever type, is like so stupid to me. Incredibly stupid. I don't really care if people want to appropriate like, black stuff, like, the rap music or like the black slang English or whatever. I don't necessarily care about that. Like, I think, of course, like, there's probably ways to be respectful. There are probably other ways that people use it disrespectfully. But by and large, I don't necessarily care what people think about, general African American culture and, trying to appropriate the words and whatever. That's something that I don't necessarily care about. And so I don't necessarily, think that people should just separate their cultures just because they're a certain race. She's actually being racist here. She's saying that because you're a certain way or a certain skin color, you cannot say certain words or whatever. And that to me is ironically racist. That's more racist to me than some people using slang from Black English or whatever. So
Facebook with people, the more they think I hate white people. I don't hate white people. I hate racism. It's not my fault. That's often white people. Then they started saying, well, you think you're above it all. I don't. So I wrote this thing. I, Hannah Fannin Steele, am a racist. I am a product of the white dominant structure I was raised in. My people have done an excellent job lifting each other up. Unfortunately, that was on the backs of people of color. Because this is deeply embedded in my history, it is no wonder I was passed down views that are racially problematic. Even though white supremacy can be unconscious, it is constant. Living in this society would have been a miracle for me to be anything but racist.
okay, it's kind of strange. Like, she said that she was like raised in a society that raised her to be like racist. But what structures, what kind of institutes can you point to where people say that racism is actually okay. Because that shit has been illegal since like 1964. To discriminate somebody based upon race is not legal. So, what kind of background did you go to? So, anyway, aliens about to land and people are crying about cultural appropriation. I agree. Hello, man. What's up? How you doing? Let's see the rest of the video.
Now that I know I have deeply rooted racist tendencies, I can constantly be looking and listening for how they surface in my life. And when a person of color gives me feedback for not being a good ally, I can say thank you and not get defensive. Something here I said could have been problematic because I'm always learning. But you can't learn unless you reason the.
Yeah, this woman clearly has some issues. Clearly has some issues. So the next video that I'm going to show you guys for this stream is this whole entire idea of a privileged walk. Now, basically, this whole entire idea is to show, like, who is more privileged than the other person based upon their race. And it's just so sad when I saw this video for the first time, because basically what happened was, like, I could not believe this actually happened, but it actually happened. So let's check it out.
Questioned by the police because they felt you were suspicious. Take one step backwards. If you ever stop by the cops because they were suspicious of you, take a step backwards. If you or your family ever inherited money or property, take a step forward.
Of course.
Money or property, take a step forward. If you come from a supportive family environment, take a step forward. If one of your parents was ever laid off or unemployed by choice, not by choice, take a step backward. You have a family member that was fired, not by choice, take a step backwards. All right.
That is so crazy. I'm so glad I don't attend school anymore. I mean, dude, that is crazy. Like, I'm not sure what school is at. Let me see if there's like the description of, like, yeah, that doesn't really say for sure like what school it was, but like the fact that this is actually happening at any school at all, that's crazy, man. That's like really crazy. I'll be pretty far ahead in this privilege walk. Yeah, I know, right? There's like another video I'm gonna show you guys. Hold on, I'm gonna load it up. Give me 1 minute to like load it up, but like, yeah. Now we're gonna go old school for this video because like pretty much just like oh god, that was like an echo right here, sorry. But basically this whole entire video I saw the other day was just too funny not to skip over. It's pretty much gonna go back to old school again. And what's happening in this video is that, this whole entire like person who's actually, fight, against exorcism and stuff, he's gonna claim that, Mortal Kombat is evil and stuff. So let's watch some video. Let's see. School's even worse now. Sometimes we have no white days. Really? Really? No white days? Are you serious, man? That's crazy. But anyway, let's see this video about Mortal Kombat and how evil it is.
Millennials never experienced role-playing games of the 80s, such as Dungeons and Dragons, indulged in without the aid of computer-generated graphics. Back then, I did many exorcisms on D&D players.
This motherfucker just said he'd perform exorcisms. Oh boy. Well, yeah, it's true that I have not, experienced the 80s. I was like, born in the 90s. But yeah, this whole entire, this it's kind of interesting because like, during the 90s, I saw some of that crazy stuff too. Like I saw people like, saying that Pokemon was the devil, that Power Rangers was actually, evil. And of course, during the 2000s, I saw people saying that Harry Potter needs to be burned. But dude, you freaking this dude does exorcisms. Okay, I cannot take my combo. Let's continue.
They so invested themselves in their characters, such as the druid, the sorcerer, or the wizard, that they became demon possessed because of their identification with that character.
Oh god. Demon possessed because they identify with their oh my god. How can I rebut this? This is too funny to me. Oh my god. Whoa. Bring back Jack Thompson. Oh.
In today's gaming world of human interaction with visual instant feedback on a computer monitor, it's even worse. There is no violent or immoral theme too evil for the gaming industry to exploit. One observer remarked that, and I quote, "The combination of low culture and high technology provides the instrument for libidinal extravaganzas devoid of any socially productive component."
I mean, it kind of depends on the game you're playing. There are some games that do, in fact, rely on, of course, social interaction with people. Of course, a lot of people, shit talk each other sometimes during these matches. But by and large, if you're playing like a local game with another person, of course, that's like a social interaction to, help other people out. Or sometimes they're competitive and like fighting games and just, talk to each other that way. So there is some sort of social component to gaming, if you will. And obviously, of course, there's like these sort of conventions where people gather together to, talk about these sort of video games. So to say that there's no sort of social component to gaming is a lie. It's just a lie. I'm waiting for him to say that Pokemon is evil. And I'm waiting for him that too. A matter of fact, like after this video, let's search for him, like, saying that Pokemon is evil. Let's see if that's actually a video on his channel. Oh.
Close quote. Well put. The American Academy of Pediatrics sums it up this way. Quote, "Playing violent video games is to an adolescent's violent behavior what smoking tobacco is to lung cancer."
I mean, like, we know for a fact that tobacco can internally kill you, but like video games don't inherently kill you. It's true that if you play too much video games, you might have bad vision, and of course, as a result of that, like people get glasses. But by and large, making your vision worse is not the same thing as, slowly dying from tobacco. It's just not the same thing.
End of quote. And no game franchise is worse than Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is the second best-selling fighting game franchise. Its media universe includes movies, a TV show, a stage show, comic books, and of course a game, all with a satanic Leviathan dragon as the branded symbol. The combat theme centers on martial artists with supernatural powers out to save the world by violent bloodshed, gruesome combat scenes, finished with moves known as fatalities, murdering one's opponent. This can include bashing an opponent into pieces, impaling them with a bed of spikes, or disposing of them in a pool of acid. Or the loser may choose to exit by suicide, depriving the winner from murdering his opposition. The latest combat movie, released in April, is still packing theaters. It is also the most successful film to date on HBO Max. The plot features occult themes of souls being saved by a god of thunder, a soul-eating sorcerer, and a dragon-marked savior of humanity. They have the power known as arcana. Now, that's a play on the word arcane, which refers to secret occult abilities. In the movie, arcana gives those who possess it the power to shoot a laser from one's eyes, teleportation, supernatural strength, and the belief that touching the blood of a departed fighter allows the dead man's spirit to fight along the current combatant.
Oh, the more and more he talks about this game, the more and more like people will find it to be cool. This is not necessarily, trying to say like, this game is bad, you shouldn't play it. Like more and more people are now going to play Mortal Kombat because of this whole entire video, if they have not played it already. Like, I already played Mortal Kombat so many times. I played the 2D games. I also played like the newer ones on the PS4. And honestly, like, he's not necessarily, trying to, say that this, you should not, necessarily like his whole entire message is the opposite of what he thinks it is. Like, he's trying to say that all that kind of stuff is bad, but it's not necessarily bad. They're actually selling the whole entire movie and the game by describing it all.
The occult and witchcraft aren't the only dangers to movie fans of Mortal Kombat. There are moral and psychological effects as well. Aggression, loss of control over personal behavior, and inability to direct one's thoughts with inhibitions. All this is the result of the national obsession with gaming.
That's not true. Now, for the whole entire aggression argument, now there's like been like a chart that's been like a study by places like Oxford, and so there's like no correlation according to the data from Oxford and these other publications between violence in real life and video games. Now, the whole entire aspect about aggression is basically, of course, common sense. Like, of course, if you were to fight against a boss level and the boss happens to be like, really hard or really challenging, obviously, of course, you have short moments of outbursts of frustration when you try to beat that boss. But once you beat that boss, you feel so satisfied that you actually beat that boss. So it's kind of strange. Like, it's also really weird too. Like, there's like this chart I saw where basically like the more access of video games and pornographic stuff, like the more people got access to those kind of stuff, like the lower and lower and lower the crime rate actually, became. And so access to, pornographic stuff, access to video games actually may have some sort of correlation to the violence levels being down. And so it's kind of strange. Let's see, did Christians just not know that marking like cannibalism and blood drinking is a major tradition of theirs? Blood magic is Christian, excuse me. Not necessarily for all the denominations. Like, if you're talking about Catholicism, like, it was like the denomination that I actually grew up on. So if you're talking about the Catholic faith, like, they do in fact believe that the blood and the bread is actually real. That's true. But like for more Protestant types, not so much. But like, yeah. In Catholic faith, they do in fact believe, according to the doctrine, that the blood and also the bread is like real. Like you're literally drinking Jesus' blood and eating Jesus' body. So that's crazy.
This past year, 63 of the largest 66 police jurisdictions saw increases in at least one category of violent crime, including homicide, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. Should we blame the game? Not entirely. But today, those ages 15 to 24 account for 14% of the population, but are responsible for 40% of all arrests.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing. Mortal Kombat is not aimed for 15-year-olds or anybody younger. There's a main reason why these games are rated mature. That way, like people 18 and older could actually play these games. And so you can't necessarily say that all this stuff is happening because of Mortal Kombat when of course, basically, of course, I think it's really important as parents to know what kind of games you're buying your kids and make sure that the content that the game has is actually okay. In this day and age, you can go to YouTube, you can look at the game footage by Let's Players and gaming channels and see just how bad the content really is if you're just too lazy to look at the rating. There's like no excuse whatsoever to not parent what you actually control, what your kids see or do or think or whatever. So, really weird.
And I believe that the nearly $200 billion gaming industry is driving a lot of these statistics. If you are a Christian and you watch the 2021 version of Mortal Kombat, the movie, without spiritual discernment, you've contributed to the looming age of the Antichrist.
Okay, so the Christians who are watching this live stream right now, yeah, like you guys are like attributing to the Antichrist if you like Mortal Kombat. Oh, wow. Wow.
The battle that should concern you isn't that of cage fighters with arcana or Shaolin Temple Buddhist Kung Fu martial artists. It's the war being waged for your soul by Satan.
Oh, of course it has to be like about Satan. Oh. It's so fun. Oh.
Ephesians 4:27 says, don't give place to the devil. Don't immerse yourself in a movie based on a satanic worldview of good and evil, God and Satan, or you may find yourself in mortal combat with demons inside your own soul.
Oh my god, this is so fucking funny, man. Let me check his channel real quick. Like, does he have any videos about Harry Potter? Let's see if he has any sort of videos for like Harry Potter real quick. Let's see. Oh my god, Harry Potter. Let's see if he actually does. Oh, he actually got fucking videos for Harry Potter. Okay, let's see the videos for Harry Potter real quick. Oh my god.
Well, I'm coming to you this time from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. You can see behind me, we have an empty room. It's our seminar room. Tonight, this place is going to be filled with people seeking how to get free, stay free, and live free. So come to one of our seminar cities and experience the excitement. And of course, you can always come to our brand new ministry center in Phoenix, Arizona, and receive the freedom that you need and you deserve. I'm so glad that finally, after all this time, somebody has banned Harry Potter. It took a parochial school, a Catholic school in Nashville, Tennessee. It's a decade overdue, but thank God it's finally happened. You know, I don't know of a single evangelical Christian school that has officially banned Harry Potter like this Catholic school has. I'm sick of compromising, born-again bunch who will not take a stand and constantly waffle. And as a result, we have a generation that has been seduced by the occult. And unfortunately, many Christians are to blame for that, for apologizing for this demonic Wizard of Hogwarts series of books that has completely shifted the spiritual paradigm of the Western world. Harry Potter. They have sold in excess of 500 million books. No wonder this pastor is upset. He issued a statement via email, basically saying that these books present witchcraft and magic as either good or evil. And he bluntly said, that's a lie. It's not true. And that what is in the Harry Potter books are spells and incantations of actual evil spirits that they are conjuring. Amen. Good for these folks. 7 books. The first one, just the first one alone, sold more than 120 million copies. That was the Philosopher's Stone. 80 languages. The Deathly Hallows, 15 million first print run, the largest of any book in the history of the world. What's happened here is that through this billion-dollar theme park, movies, Broadway show, an entire generation has shifted their thinking about what is truth and what is the supernatural. So let's make it plain. The supernatural is good or evil. It's God or the devil. All the occult, all the witchcraft is always spiritual rebellion against Jehovah. We have a generation that has been brainwashed to think that there's nothing wrong with the demonic supernatural. Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter, is very plain. These things are an abomination to God and damning to the human soul. Don't you allow Harry Potter in your home for your children, your grandchildren, your church or Christian school. Or you, if you don't get banned from heaven, may at least be banished here and now for a living Harry Potter hell.
Oh my god. I honestly do not have any response to this. Like, how can I respond to something that's so clearly crazy right here? Like, this type of shit right here is what I grew up on when I was a kid. Like, I remember there was, like, some sort of family friend who also thought the same way. Because as a kid, I also grew up with Harry Potter books and the movies. And so, like, by the time, like, Harry Potter was, like, 11, I was also, like, 11. When he was 12, I was 12. When he was 13, I was 13. So, literally, I was as old as Harry Potter by the last book. And with the last movies, too. And so, it's so weird. Like, these sort of out-of-touch boomers still think that Harry Potter is demonic and witchcraft. And what it's like, wow. Yeah, he's Canada's problem. Exactly, man. Like, isn't Satan just an extension of Yahweh? I mean, like, demons can't act without God's permission and biblical lore. Yeah. I know you from Rags. Hey, man, what's up? Welcome to my channel. Wait until he finds out that the founding fathers of the U.S. were deists and maybe even agnostic. That's really cool. Let's see if he actually talks about, like Pokemon. Let's see. Let me search for Pokemon for this guy. What does he say about Pokemon? Okay, there's no video for Pokemon. Okay, yeah. No video for Pokemon for this guy, but let's go to these other things that I have for you guys. Man, like, that's crazy. I didn't really think that people like who perform like these sort of exorcist stuff like still exist, but wow. That's pretty funny to me. Really funny to me, dude. Let's see, it's loading up right now. There's like some sort of videos from like Joy again, so yeah, that's gonna be fun in contrast to the religious guy. So let's see the videos from Joy.
Normally run tonight. But we begin the readout tonight with the insidious underbelly of the GQP culture war. Right now, in this summer before the next round of elections, Democrats across the country are preparing to run as they would normally run. But whether they realize it or not, they are running headlong into a cultural wood chipper because Republicans aren't running an election. They're waging an all-out war for power that increasingly is based on and steeped in the Trump cult and even white nationalism. And no matter how reckless and dangerous...
White nationalism? Really? So, it's so nice, just to label people just white nationalism just because they oppose your ideology. But, let's see. I think they do exorcism over Zoom calls. Are you fucking serious? Like, they do exorcism over Zoom. Oh my god. Wow. Really? That is too funny, man. But anyway, let's continue with the video.
That is, they're doing it believing it will move white voters. Look no further than the ongoing hysteria over race-conscious education, what they are shamelessly and falsely misrepresenting as critical race theory. Radicalized parent activists across the country are targeting school boards with
Radicalized. I don't think, of course, she knows what the word radical actually means. I mean, it's pretty, radical to teach people to hate other people, you see. But of course, they're the ones who are the radical ones who are protesting. Sure.
behind-the-scenes help from conservative groups. Protesters are swarming those meetings, vowing to revolt against a curriculum they've labeled unacceptable and reverse racist. And leading the charge in this fight is, you guessed it, right-wing media. Yesterday, Fox News mentioned critical race theory more than 100 times before 2 p.m., I should say. And then there's Fox's fear-mongering standard-bearer Tuckums, who went full 1984, denouncing what he called the greatest threat to our society.
It's civilization-ending poison. But it's everywhere. How widespread is it? Well, we can't really be sure until we finally get cameras in the classroom as we put them on the chests of police officers.
Civilization-ending poison.
I mean, I guess in a sense, when you try to start with the foundations that, of course, Americans inherently racist, like critical race theory does, obviously it's probably, start up in a civilization. So maybe it's, very kind of exaggerated, but maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. It's everyone's friend is Tyler. Hey man, what's up? Welcome to my stream. Never mind, Trump got a large proportion of the Cuban vote and has the largest black vote population of any Republican candidate. Exactly. Let's see the other videos from this thread.
The common denominator is an attempt to reverse something Joe Biden pulled off last year. According to Pew Research Center analysis, in addition to overwhelmingly winning voters of color, Biden ate into the ex-president's support among white voters, particularly white suburban voters, reducing Trump's 2016 margin by 12%. So the goal now is to terrify those white voters into voting for a party that is offering nothing on policy, zero, nothing, by zeroing in on the amygdala of white suburbanites and scaring the hell out of them. That Black Americans are conspiring to pollute their precious children's minds with dangerous knowledge. And then
what kind of strawman is she doing, man? It's not necessarily just white parents who are concerned. I've seen videos where there were also black parents who were also concerned about critical race theory. And of course, they started to argue against critical race theory in schools. So it's not necessarily just a white parent thing. Pretty much people of all races have been denouncing critical race theory left and right. Again, she keeps on lying. She just keeps on lying with her videos.
And turn them into woke future Democrats. And in the wake of the disgraced...
I mean, it's true. Earlier in the stream, I saw a person who was a fourth grade teacher who basically had this whole entire thing of teaching these sort of woke concepts to little kids. And so, yeah, they are in fact trying to indoctrinate them to become more woke. So that whole entire thing is true. It's true. It's happening in our schools.
Twice impeached president's defeat, that hysteria over the perceived encroachment of race-conscious education is being exploited by another insidious force, followers of QAnon, who are now using the battle cry.
Are you fucking saying this motherfucker saying that QAnon has to do with the whole entire protest against critical race theory? What? What evidence? What evidence do you have to prove that QAnon has to do with this? Really?
To similarly target school boards, with many who have espoused QAnon's theories, now melding their own conspiracies with the lies about critical race.
Oh my god. Citation needed. Citation fucking needed, man. You can't just say that QAnon is behind these protests without some sort of evidence. Of course, it would be like more, have to say the truth, but of course, you don't say the truth because you have to be like a liar.
Theory. With me now is NBC News senior reporter Ben Collins. Ben, please explain this nexus now between this fake version of critical race theory that is freaking people out at school boards and QAnon.
Yeah, sure. So the last year, people have presented basically a laundry list to try to get people on school boards, off school boards. And, at the very beginning of last year, it was about masks generally, mask mandates, getting people riled up about the fact they can't get their kids back to school, or once their kids are back in school, they're going to be wearing masks. And a lot of them were using junk science they found, on Facebook or whatever. And, that had legs for a long time. But then in, the last 3 or 4 months, critical race theory is added to this. And a lot of the people who were there for mask stuff then got their, they just added something to it. They added critical race theory stuff to it as well. They were like, hey, if we can get this person off a school board, get one of our own onto this school board, it doesn't really matter to me if we're adding another talk about race to this thing. We really just want the masks over with.
This is so stupid. I still have yet to see any evidence that QAnon has to do with these protests against critical race theory. It's so weird. Like, hold on. There's one more. Hold on. There's like 2 more clips, and then I'm gonna go to something else.
To these meetings, seeing this big public spectacle. Some of these things are on YouTube, so they can go up there and give these big speeches about the cabal or something. And they can say, hey, we need to rile people up. We need to get people ready to take over these school boards over the next year. They'll post that, by the way, on their Instagram later on. But that's the point. They are using Michael Flynn's rallying cry to, take over the school boards, run for school board, run for public office, he said. He said, we need to get involved in the education of our children. And right now, on the top of the biggest QAnon message board, that's what you'll see. You'll see that quote from Mike Flynn saying, run for school board.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is that sort of.
Okay. They should really, show some sort of, evidence, like screenshots, whatever, to prove that there are people within the anti-critical race crowd that are being inspired by QAnon. If they could post some sort of screenshots or whatever to actually support their argument, I would like to see that. Otherwise, what is presented without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
The through line here is to say that essentially white America's children are being polluted, their minds, their bodies.
It's not just white children, again, Joy. It's pretty much any American children. Like I saw in the video earlier in the stream, there are like people of different colors who had to do like some sort of, privilege walk based upon their circumstances. And so it's not necessarily, the brainwashing of white children, as you put it. It's pretty much the brainwashing of all American children. So stop saying it's like only like white children that people are concerned about. It's pretty much everybody, really.
By the woke mob, by the left, by the multicultural party, and that's a threat. It sounds very much like the Reconstruction era, when like the black and tan Republicans were a threat because they were this multiracial coalition that was polluting the minds and bodies of white women and children. It's very 1860s. There's this other headline that we have now, that the FBI actually managed to, I guess, sort of infiltrate this Bible study group that then became a cover for violent militia plans. Here's the story. Northern Virginia's Lee Duong is accused of building up a supply of explosive. He and others held Bible studies where they discussed firearms and other training. The FBI infiltrated his militia after he interacted with undercover police on January 6th. And at the time of his arrest, he'd several guns and materials to make 50 Molotov cocktails. Apparently, he had an AK-47. Can you talk about the nexus here with?
The fuck does this have to do with like, with all this sort of QAnon, conspiracy theory going on about? I'm just curious, like, what does this have to do with people wanting to protest? Are you trying to imply that people might shoot up schools if there was like, people teaching critical race theory? What in the fuck are you? Oh my god, it's so crazy. 1860, it's been over like 150 years. Exactly. Like, during that time period, slavery was still a thing, but we don't have slavery, so it's weird. The comparison is so weird.
Evangelical Christians, because that seems to be the target group for both QAnon and for these other militias types.
People find QAnon because they are, they're tied up in specific things like Bible groups, maybe, and they move over from there. And by the way, they borrow nomenclature. For example, the Great Awakening, which is the big QAnon thing. That's what a lot of QAnon people thought January 6th was, right? Where everyone would wake up to the fact that there was this cabal of elites and all this stuff. That's not just a QAnon phrase. That's from evangelical Christianity over the last 20, 30 years. They work symbiotically. That doesn't mean evangelical Christians are QAnon people at all. But it does mean that QAnon people use the cloak of evangelical Christianity as a way to try to, mask this as a benevolent movement. But it's effectively a terror movement. Yeah.
Not even effectively. I mean, according to FBI Director Christopher Wray, it is a domestic terrorist movement, and they are recruiting and radicalizing people, and people need to wake up to it. Ben Collins, always on top of this. Thank you very much.
That is so stupid. Like, they have not provided any sort of evidence that anti-critical race protesters have tied to QAnon. This is like some sort of conspiracy theory. This is not even news. Like, the fact that people like Joy get a voice in the news is pretty much how people get into some sort of politicalization and have these sort of, misinformation spread like wildfire. It's crazy to me. Now, I guess the final thing I'm going to talk about for this live stream, and then after that, I'm going to stop this live stream, is this from the Daily Wire. So let's load it up right here. Okay, let's load it up. Now, it's kind of funny because, like, there was this person from the AFT who basically says that critical race theory is not being taught in schools. And so let's look at the speech, and I'm going to compare it to what they actually said on that other page. So,
knowledge that helps analyze race theory is not taught in elementary schools or middle schools or high schools. It's a method of examination taught in law school and in college that helps analyze whether systemic racism exists, and in particular, whether it has an effect on law and public policy. But culture warriors are labeling any discussion of race, racism, or discrimination as CRT to try to make it toxic. They are bullying teachers and trying to stop us from teaching students accurate history.
again, like every single time, like there's some sort of criticism of the ideology for critical race theory, they always say, well, you see, you don't want to teach us about like the history of, what happened in this country, but like the same sort of teacher union from the AFT actually has this whole entire tweet that was like, done by them. Now, this tweet, of course, says that like critical race theory gives our students the opportunity to understand the depth of American society. Like the president said, they're not being taught in school, but like the whole entire tweet right here says the other kind of opposite end. So let's see the clip right here.
Good morning to you as well.
Critical race theory movement in the headlines as Florida becomes the latest state to ban schools from teaching about systemic racism. ABC's Zachary Quiche is here with more. Good morning to you, Zachary.
Eva, good morning to you as well. It's really a way of looking at the world. It's a lens that acknowledges the role that racism plays. But critics will argue because it's both complex and because it's been politicized, instead of being used as a way of re-examining or reframing the past, it's being used as a tool to accentuate a cultural divide. This morning, critical race theory, a term originally used to broaden how we think about the past, is being used by some to define the racial divide in our schools.
Critical race theory comes out of the legal field. It's been conceptualized over 40 years ago by scholars such as Kimberly Crenshaw, speaking specifically about how systemic racism works in the legal field.
These legal scholars argued individual intentions can't be proven, but as a framework, racism is baked into our social systems and psychology.
And you want to know why they're actually protesting, because that whole entire viewpoint is pretty much simplistic. Not everything has to do with racism. There are like multi-layered issues on why something the way it is. To say racism is just a lazy argument. That's why people are protesting, because not every single thing has to be just about racism.
That's the start of the conversation, they said. Last year, the New York Times 1619 Project placed the struggle of Black Americans at the center of our country's narrative. While the work gave a nod to those largely left out of the history books, it quickly became politicized. Critical race theory was the umbrella term.
This is a deliberate plan to politicize and whitewash history.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Stop it.
It is sad that we are even contemplating something like critical race theory, where children will be separated by their skin color.
You know, earlier, like Joyce said that there are only white parents who are concerned about critical race theory. Like literally just right now, we just had like 2 black parents. So, so much for that narrative right here.
And deemed permanently oppressors or oppressed in 2021.
On Thursday, the Florida Board of Education banned critical race theory in its schools.
I think it'll cause people to think of themselves more as a member of a particular race or based on skin color rather than based on the content of their character.
There's no national mandate saying this curriculum needs to be taught in public schools. But at least 5 Republican-led states have now officially banned the theory from public education. Last month, state AGs from 20 states told the Education Department they oppose the teachings.
What teachers have been doing is simply doing what they always do. They create magic in our classrooms. They give our students the opportunity to understand the full breadth and depth of the American society. And that is about the inception of this country. That's about our Constitution. That's about slavery. That's about Jim Crow laws. It's about the beautiful inventions that we've had. And it spans across the diaspora. And it spans across any demographic kind of divide that we may have.
People on both sides are fired up.
It absolutely needs to be taught, okay? CRT needs to be taught to avoid biases, you know, to not repeat history.
There are racists. There always has been. They should be condemned. But I don't believe that America is a racist country.
Now, some say that education has been impacted by the moment.
We're unfortunately seeing resistance to even broach the concept of what that means in our understanding of our history and our present.
Not a new concept, some 4 decades in the making. Now, some educators argue that the controversy is manufactured and not reflective of any wholesale changes across education.
All right, Zachary Quiche for us. Thank you. We appreciate.
Yeah, let's see. The 1619 Project is an anti-American false view of history. I need to study more about the whole entire 1619 Project before I comment about it. But hold on. There's like one more thing that I want to talk about. Like, hold on. See, there's something right here. Actually, a few things I want to talk about actually before I end this thing. Yeah, a few things more, then I'll probably end it. So this one comes directly from like China. And this is so funny. Like, you know, Twitter has been allowing China to actually, you know, post their stuff, and a lot of it's like propaganda. This one right here says, if someone gives me just one example of the Communist Party from China imposing its ideology of anyone outside of Chinese borders, I'll be really grateful. Well, you see, of course, like they've been trying to, you know, colonize like, you know, various parts of Africa right now. They've been trying to colonize, you know, Taiwan. They also been going after against those in Hong Kong. So yes, China has actually imposed its views on many people. That's easy. I really like how, you know, this Chinese account try to stick up for China, but like China is no bastion of human rights at all. Completely awful place. Completely awful. Now this one is done by Anita Sarkeesian. She says right here as a response to this tweet, scared by that new report on climate change? Here's what you have to do to help. Eat less meat, about 30% of meat. Swap your car or plane ride for a bus or train. Use smart thermostats in your home and upgrade to a more efficient appliances. And basically what she said right here, it says like, fuck off. We're not individually responsible for the destruction of the planet. Corporations and governments are the only ones who can make any sort of kind of meaningful impact. Stop with this neoliberal bullshit. It's kind of funny though, because she always seemed to collectively go after gamers, right? Her whole entire ideology is about collectivism. But here she is saying right here that, oh my God, how dare you, saying the stuff about climate change and stuff. So it's so funny to me when I read that for the first time. All right, let's see. I think it probably might be two more things I want to show you guys. Like two more things. Two more things. Now I remember my last video, but basically what happened was that there was a video all across the internet about this sort of San Francisco gay choir club, whatever, and they said they're gonna convert your children. Now there's a message that was actually been done by the gay men's choir, and so let's see the message right here. It's kind of funny to read it too. Let's see. On July 1st, we posted a message from a gay community to the SFGMC TV and across social media. It was chosen because of how loved it was when we were performing live in San Francisco at Pride, at Singouts, in South Carolina, and at the Pride Showcase. The piece was commissioned by the Oakland Sympathy, who shared it with us. The far-right conservative media, as of course it always has to be the far right, found our message video and has taken it as their cause. It has all happened within the last 24 hours and continues to pick up steam. They have taken the lyrics out of context to support a narrative that suits their intolerant and hateful needs. It's an obvious tongue-in-cheek humor that is lost on many. As a result, we have seen the user comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram become increasingly alarming. Emails to individuals in the choir office were vitriolic, including threats of harm. We felt the first action we need to take to keep everyone involved with the choir and to making the video safe is to turn the video to private. We are communicating with the law enforcement both locally and nationally. We will not be certain, and we will follow legal steps to act on those threats. We will always accept others who may hold different values, but when violence is their choice of expression, since 1969, we have not backed down. After decades of children being indoctrinated and taught intolerance for anyone who is the other, using the Bible as a weapon to therapeutic therapy as our term. We have dedicated ourselves to becoming role models, teaching and spreading the message of love, tolerance, and celebration through our music. The second action is to control the narrative. The video is being illegally copied and pasted on YouTube, Instagram, and other websites. Others have the rights to follow fair use laws, but it's not what's happening here. Therefore, our social media marketing staff are working around the clock to alert monitors on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook to file DMCAs. So far, it has been really successful. It's kind of funny. They're actually censoring those who are after their video. It is so strange to me. Because a lot of the people that was in that video were actually being caught at being sexual predators. I'm not even joking either. Let's go to this thread right here. Because a lot of the people in the video were caught as sexual predators. Wait. Where is the? No. No, that's not the link right here. No, that's the wrong link here. Where is the? Okay, right there it is. No. Wait. But yeah, I saw a link somewhere they were caught as sexual predators. But let me check my my Twitter real quick. Hold on. Like I remember seeing it on my page right here. I'm gonna go like hold on. Because I cannot find a link right now. Sorry guys. Yeah, I think it was actually taken down by like the company. Yeah, I think the company actually struck that whole entire page down. Because yesterday I saw that link of that whole entire page of like these people being caught as sexual predators. But anyway, I saw it yesterday. There's probably some sort of archive. So let me go to like the archive page to check out this whole entire tweet if it's actually there. Let's see the Internet Archives. Because I saw it yesterday. It was like they were caught as sexual predators. I'm gonna share like hold on. It's still loading right here. Alright, let me go to like the main page to like the Wayback Machine. And I'm gonna post the link right here. Let me where is it? Yeah, it's completely gone. Like the whole entire tweet is completely gone. Wow. But yeah, like I saw like a whole entire thread which basically talked about how many of these people were caught as predators. And so it's sort of strange that these people think they get away with this kind of stuff. It's so weird. Let me check. Let me see like another link. Hold on. Let me double check. Because I know I've seen it somewhere. I know I've seen it somewhere. What is it? Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Okay, that's the wrong link too. Well, anyway, I cannot show you guys the link because it's been deleted, unfortunately. But yeah, a lot of these people were caught as sexual predators by 4chan, and so I guess it's still up there on 4chan right now. But yeah, I saw the whole entire images and stuff, like these people being caught as pedophiles. So it's kind of funny. Like they say that they're gonna convert your children, when like a lot of these people, of course, end up being pedophiles. But anyway, like that's the whole entire live stream for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's been like a lot of fun for me. But anyway, I'll see you guys like in the next video or whatever. So take care.